At 3:16 in the morning, on February 25th, 1942, anti-aircraft batteries opened fire across Los Angeles. For the next hour, soldiers fired 1,400 shells at something moving through the night sky. Searchlights locked onto objects that drifted, hovered, refused to fall. When the barrage ended and the smoke cleared, nothing had come down. Not a single piece of wreckage was ever found. Los Angeles in early 1942 was a city holding its breath. Less than 3 months had passed since Pearl Harbor. The West Coast braced for Japanese attack. Blackout drills were practiced nightly. Air raid wardens patrolled darkened streets. Every unidentified shape on the horizon became a potential threat. The night of February 24th began quietly. Families went to bed early, curtains drawn tight against blackout regulations. Soldiers manned anti-aircraft batteries scattered across the city. 37th Coast Artillery Brigade positions stretched from Long Beach to Santa Monica. The guns were loaded, crews ready. They had been ready for weeks. At 2:25 a.m., air raid sirens began to wail. 4th Interceptor Command had received reports of unidentified aircraft approaching from the ocean. Searchlight crews scrambled to their stations. Across the city, lights went dark. In the sudden silence after the sirens, Los Angeles waited. For 50 minutes, nothing happened. Then, the sky erupted. At exactly 3:16 a.m., a battery near the Douglas aircraft plant in Santa Monica opened fire. Within minutes, every anti-aircraft position in the city joined in. The 37mm and 300-inch guns hammered the sky. Witnesses described it as the loudest thing they had ever heard. A continuous roar that shook windows and set off car alarms across a 20-mile radius. The searchlights revealed something that made no sense. Witnesses reported seeing a large, slow-moving object caught in the beams, something that appeared to hover, then drift, then hover again. It did not behave like any aircraft the gunners recognized. Shell after shell burst around it, and it continued moving through the sky, impossibly calm, impossibly slow. Katie, a young woman living near Vermont Avenue, stood at her window and watched the barrage. She told reporters she saw the searchlights focus on something circular and bright. It moved from west to east, slowly, as if it had all the time in the world. The shells burst around it in perfect clusters. None of them seemed to touch it. The gunners followed orders. They fired at whatever the searchlights illuminated. Some reported multiple objects, perhaps 6, perhaps more, moving independently. Others insisted there was only one large craft, drifting along the coast. A radio operator at the Santa Monica Battery said it passed directly overhead. It was not a plane. The barrage continued for over an hour. Shells landed in the streets. Inglewood, Hermosa Beach, and Long Beach all reported shrapnel damage. 3 civilians died that night, 2 from heart attacks brought on by the noise and chaos, 1 in a car accident during the blackout. Whatever was in the sky moved on, untouched, unharmed. At 4:14 a.m., the guns fell silent. The order came down from 4th Interceptor Command: cease fire. The searchlights swept the empty sky for another 20 minutes, finding nothing. As dawn broke over the city, people emerged into streets littered with spent shell casings. The smell of cordite hung in the air like fog. The newspapers demanded answers. The Los Angeles Times ran a front-page photograph showing searchlights converging on a bright object in the sky. That afternoon, Secretary of the Navy Frank Knox held a press conference. His explanation was brief. It had been a false alarm. There were no aircraft. The gunners had been firing at nothing. The witnesses knew what they had seen. Peter Jenkins, an air raid warden in Culver City, filed a report describing a bright, disc-shaped object that hovered for several minutes before drifting south. He was a veteran of the First World War, trained in aircraft identification. What he saw that night was not an airplane, not a balloon. The Army took a different position. Secretary of War Henry Stimson announced that as many as 15 aircraft had been detected over Los Angeles. They were likely commercial planes, he said, flown by enemy agents to spread panic. The Navy said nothing. The Army said 15 enemy planes. Both statements could not be true. Then, a detail emerged that neither explanation could account for. The 4th Interceptor Command Log recorded radar contact at 2:21 a.m., 4 minutes before the sirens. The object was tracked at 120 miles from Los Angeles, approaching from the west at extremely low speed. No known aircraft in 1942 could fly that slowly and remain airborne. For weeks afterward, witnesses came forward. A nurse driving home from her shift at Queen of Angels Hospital reported seeing a formation of small, bright objects moving in perfect synchronization. A police officer in Redondo Beach described something hovering just offshore, visible against the moonlit ocean. All of them described the same impossibility. Whatever was in the sky did not respond to being shot at. The military conducted an immediate investigation. Every anti-aircraft battery was interviewed. The ammunition expenditure was tallied: 1,430 rounds of 3-inch shells and 37mm rounds combined. Damage reports came in from across the city, yet the investigation found no wreckage, no debris, no evidence of impact. 1,400 shells had been fired. Nothing had been brought down. A classified Army report, declassified decades later, admitted the objects had been tracked on radar but could not be identified. The report noted the lack of aircraft wreckage as unexplained. It also noted that if the objects had been weather balloons, as some suggested, the volume of fire would have shredded them instantly. The balloons would have fallen. Nothing fell. The official explanation shifted again. By March, the War Department settled on weather balloons released to test civilian response to an air raid. The gunners had not been informed. The anti-aircraft crews, some with years of training, had fired at weather balloons for an hour and missed every one. The explanation satisfied no one who had been there. In the years that followed, witness accounts remained consistent. Those who had seen the objects described them as large, luminous, and impossibly slow. Several reported a craft that appeared to be hit directly by anti-aircraft fire and simply absorbed the impact, glowing brighter for a moment before continuing on. The image published in the Los Angeles Times was analyzed for decades. It showed something real, caught in the lights. The military never changed its official position. In 1983, the Office of Air Force History reviewed the incident and concluded the targets had been meteorological balloons and general war nerves. The same review acknowledged that anti-aircraft crews had been certain they were firing at aircraft. The contradiction was noted. It was not resolved. No Japanese attack on Los Angeles ever occurred. No enemy aircraft were captured or identified. The radar operators who tracked the objects at impossible speeds never received an explanation for what they had seen on their screens. The Searchlight crews who watched something drift through a hurricane of shrapnel never understood what they had illuminated. The witnesses are gone now. The soldiers who fired that night, the civilians who watched from darkened windows, the air raid wardens who filed their reports, all of them have passed. But the photographs remain. The newspaper accounts remain. The military documents, once classified, remain. And in all of them, the same question persists. 1,400 shells were fired into the sky that night. 3 people died. A city held its breath for an hour, waiting for something to fall. Nothing did. In the morning, the streets were littered with shrapnel, but the sky was empty. Whatever had been up there had moved on, untouched, indifferent to the fury directed at it. Do you believe what you just witnessed? If not, tell us why in the comments below. And if this story sent a chill through you, like and subscribe to Wait Historical. There are darker mysteries still to come.